Hello guys and welcome back to my channel Firewall again. In this video we'll try to cover domain 3, 4 and 5. Let's begin with domain 3, which is operate. Let's identify consideration for configuring external log forwarding. Direct forwarding log forwarding. Use up an external service to monitor the firewall, enable you to receive alerts for important events. Archive monitored information on a system with dedicated long-term storage and integrate with third-party security monitoring tools. Local log storage on a Palo Alto network firewall is strictly allocated between different log files to ensure that no particular log is overrun by another. This allocation is user control. You need to navigate to device, then setup, then management, then logging and reporting setting. For access, the configuration setting, as you can see on a screen. Each storage area typically act as a circular logs in the sense that when filled, new entries will overwrite old ones. Space is clear in blocks and message added to the system log. Before you can use Panorama or external system to monitor the firewall, you must configure the firewall for forward its log. Before the firewall forward to the external services, it automatically convert the logs to the necessary format: syslog message, SNMP traps, HTTP or email notifications. Before you can start this procedure, ensure that the Panorama or the external server that will receive the log data is running and can receive this traffic. Destination log type and formatting. External forwarding support the following types of destinations: SNMP traps, syslog, HTTP server, email, Panorama. All types other than Panorama support customization of the message format, a typical destination configuration, as you can see on a screen. Email message format can be customized, as you can see on a screen. Any log event redirection cause a copy of the log event to forwarded as specified. It is logged on the firewall as usual. Method used to forward logs. Two main methods are used to forward log events. Depending on the log message type, log events destined for the system config, user ID and HIP match logs are redirected using the settings. Like you have to go to the device, then log setting to choose the event destinations for a specific event type. The second method is the use of log forwarding profile to route traffic, thread, wildfire and other log event to other systems such as Panorama, SIEM products, syslog servers. Log forwarding profile are attached to the individual firewall security policy to enable forwarding of the event associated with the processing of the specific policy. This profiles include one or more log forwarding profile match list. This granularity allows administrators specific control of forwarding and potential of different forwarding for policy of differing importance. All forwarded events are sent to their destination as they are generated on a firewall. Palo Alto Network also offer a cloud-based Cortex XDR data lake, formerly known as logging services, that can be a central repository for forwarding logs from multiple Palo Alto Network devices. This central pool of log data is fully accessible to the owner and act as an optional base for further third-party security applications through the Palo Alto Network Cortex API. Interpret log files, reports and graphs to determine traffic and threat trends. Logging and reporting are critical component of any security network. The ability to log all network activity in a logical, organized and easily segmented way makes logging even more valuable. Rapid, thorough and accurate interpretation of event is critical to security. Security practitioners often suggest that security is only as good as visibility it is built on. This reason contribute to Palo Alto Network's information collection and display design. Log information generally is in the monitoring tab of the web interface. Reporting section align with the general use of these reports. Log section presents detailed real-time data with ability to recall previous data subjected to available storage. It is subdivided into sections that segment log data into related information. PanOS 9.0 includes a unified log that collect copy of event from the traffic thread, URL filtering, wildfire submission and data filtering log into a single location for easy parsing of related data. Each log provides similar feature which result in an organized presentation of desired data. Displayed log data can export it in a CSV format at any time, as you can see on a screen. This exports include all detail of the displayed record even it isn't visible in a chosen column displays. You can see the entries in a various log using your monitoring tab. From there, going to logs, you can configure the column to display and their order and bandwidth. Each log display offers a powerful filtering capabilities that facilitate the display of specific desired data. As shown on the screen, filter can be added to eliminate the display of undesired entries. Filter can be built and even stored for future use. While this log data is stored in a detail in the log storage, a firewall summarizes new log entries and adds the result to separate onboarded reporting database used as default sources by Application Command Center, ACC, App Scope, PDF report, and customized reports. The scope of this summarization process can be controlled with setting on device and then setup and then management and then logging and reporting setting, as you can see on a screen. Now let's identify how to configure the firewall to integrate with Autofocus and verify its functionality. Autofocus is a threat intelligence service that provides an interactive graphical interface for analyzing threats in your network. You can use Autofocus to compare threats in your network to threat information collected from other network in your industry or across the globe. Within a specific time frame, Autofocus statistics are updated to include the most recent threat samples analyzed by Palo Alto Network. Access to this information allows you to stay current with threat trends and to take preventive approach to securing your network. Autofocus is separately licensed product that is accessed in two primary ways: directly through the Autofocus portal or by viewing Autofocus provided data in a firewall web interface. The Autofocus portal is primary access method for the evaluation of overall trend and characteristics of historical and current threats. This data can be used to characterize traffic seen on your network. Threat found by the firewall can be enriched by Autofocus provided contextual data. Additional threat context can be displayed for the threat reported in your firewall logs. Enablement of Autofocus is three-step process. Number one, enter your Autofocus authorization code into firewall license management. Number two, ensure that the correct URL to access Autofocus is configured in the firewall. And number three, log into the Autofocus portal and add information about your firewall. Now let's see how identify the impact of deploying dynamic updates. Palo Alto Network maintain a content delivery network (CDN) infrastructure for delivering content updates to Palo Alto Network firewalls. The firewall accesses the web resources in the CDN to perform various app ID, content ID functions. CDN is your control delivery network. By default, the firewall uses the management port to access the CDN infrastructure for application updates, threats, and antivirus signature updates, and access to the Palo Alto Network Wildfire Cloud to ensure that you are always protected from the latest threat, including those that have not yet been discovered. You must keep your firewall up to date with the latest content and software update published by the Palo Alto Networks. App ID updates have a special impact because new application definition might affect current security policy rules. Pano software provides features to review the app ID updates and modify the security policy rules. If your firewall are managed by the Panorama device can be the source of dynamic updates for managed firewall and can configure updates scheduled. Now let's see how to identify the relationship between the Panorama and device as pertaining to dynamic updates versions and policy implementation and HAPS. You can use Panorama to quickly software and content updates by deploying them to subset of firewalls, dedicated log collectors or a wildfire appliances and appliance cluster before you install the updates on the rest of the firewalls. If you want to schedule a periodic content updates, Panorama require a direct internet connection. To deploy software or a content update on a demand unscheduled, the procedure differs based on whether Panorama is connected to the internet. Panorama displays a warning if you manually deploy a content update when a scheduled update process has started or will start within 5 minutes. Panorama notifies the device, firewall, log collector, wildfire that updates are available. The device then retrieves the update package from the Panorama. By default, the device retrieves updates over the management MGT interface on Panorama. However, you can configure Panorama to use multiple interfaces if you want to reduce the traffic load on management interface by using another interface for a device to retrieve updates. HA firewall are expected to have the same version content updates. Firewall that are in the HA pair implement the update process. In cases of Panorama management updates files, Panorama should schedule an update for both HA pair individually. Firewalls in HA configuration normally automatically sync their configuration with each other. When one firewall performs a commit, the change are communicated to the other firewall and commit is automatically triggered, thus keeping them in the sync. When Panorama manages a HA firewall set, this automatic update is disabled. With the sync responsibility now belonging to Panorama, an administrator must include the HA pair in any changes made and committed to on Panorama. So guys, this is end of the domain 3. Now we will enter into the domain 4. So guys, domain 4 is more of your configuration and troubleshooting. The title is configuration and troubleshooting. You have to go through a lot of troubleshooting and configuration things, scenarios to score on domain 4. Let's begin with identify the system and traffic issue using the web interface and CLI tools. Palo Alto network firewall troubleshooting involves a wide range of specific knowledge that depends on the type of issue being represented. This section introduces a few principal tools and methods available for troubleshooting. Let's start with the transit traffic not passing through as expected. If a traffic is not transiting a firewall as expected, 3 primary information sources are available in the management web interface: the log, traffic log, the session browser, and traffic capture feature. If you believe that the traffic is to be evaluated has been received by the firewall, initial investigation should begin with the traffic log. The traffic log can be found at monitor, then log and the traffic section. The default behavior of the firewall is to create a summary entry for each session when it ends. This behavior is controlled by the log setting, including in the action tab of each security policy rule. This setting controls the logging behavior of traffic handled by the rules, only allowing different logging behavior for different traffic. If the traffic questions include at least one closed session, an entry for it should appear. You can see detailed information about the session by clicking the magnifying glass on the left, as you can see on a screen. The presence of a log entry confirms that the properly formed traffic has reached the firewall and has been evaluated by the security policy rule. Traffic could be processed without reaching a session end, which would result in a no log entry yet. The session browser allows troubleshooting of open session that might not have been logged yet. The detailed session information should be used to evaluate the handling of the traffic. The source and destination section displays header data and confirm potential NAT being applied. The general section confirms the action taken by the security policy rule and the rule name, app ID, protocol, time seen, and the reason the session enabled. Detailed section shows the packet summary for reported session including counts and size. Examination of this information often confirm the firewall handling of the traffic and might show unexpected behavior to correct as required. When session has not ended and no traffic log entry has been made, you can use session browser to display all the open session currently known to the firewall. You can expand each session and examine details. When troubleshooting required an examination of the actual packet content, a packet capture can be performed on firewall and subsequently downloaded as a PCAP formatted file ready for external software consumption. Packet capture settings are found under the monitor and the packet capture setting. Clearing existing settings. The clear all setting option turn off packet captures and clear all packet capture settings including a filter and the capture stages. It also clears setting for any advanced debug level packet diagnostic features such as flow basic for which there are no control or status indicators in the web interface. Use of clear all setting does not turn off automated packet capture associated with any security profiles. Warning: if you manually clear just the filter while another firewall administrator is actively running a capture, the running capture will start to capture all packets with no filters. Before you clear any existing filter, confirm that the filters are not being used. If any other administrator has saved the filters that are meant to be used later, you can disable those filters rather than deleting them. Use the clear all setting will clear all the filters and turn off the all captures. Configuring and turning on the filter. You must turn on filtering and then turn on packet capture before any session that you want to capture have been initiated. Existing session will not be marked for capture. Adding stages and file name. Filtering along is not a resource intensive, whereas turning on packet capture and turning on debug level logging is resource intensive. Therefore, the decision of whether to configure your capture stage before or after turning on filtering generally is not that important. You can, for example, configure your filter, turn them on, and then monitor them using the CLI commands for session volume before you complete the rest of the configuration. To monitor the number of the marked session, use the command like show counter, show space counter, space global, space filter, space delta, space yes, space packet filter, and then yes. Execute the command once and then second time to see the difference, the delta part from the prior execution of the command. A brief description of 4 available capture stages. Receive stage. The firewall produces receive stage packet capture by approving the capture files on a packet per packet basis. Receive stage capture include all packet capture by the firewall's logical interfaces. Receive stage capture can help you to determine whether the packet is reaching the firewall. However, because of the potential hardware uploading and the pre-sparse discard, a receive stage capture may not produce exactly the same result as would physically tapping the wire just outside the correct physical ingress port of the firewall. Firewall stage. On a firewall running PAN-OS 8.1 on earlier, packet capture at the firewall and the transit stage will capture when the corresponding session has been matched or the capture filter statements. Firewall running PAN-OS 8.1 and a later version, the capture packet at the firewall and transit stage by the same effective logic, so not exactly the same as the receive stage, that is only if the individual flow C to S or S to C matches the filtering configuration. Firewall stage capture shows you what is inside the box. The firewall stage capture point is post ingress, post session setup, and pre-NAT setup. Next is your drop stage. The drop stage packet capture is perhaps the thought of as the result of the logging event. Instead of traditional off the wire packet capture, packet in the drop stage captures are captured after the capture point of the stage that drop the packet. This packet in the drop stage capture also will be found in the PCAP for the stage from which the packet was dropped. A packet dropped in the receive stage will appear in the both the drop stage PCAP and the receive stage PCAP. Drop stage PCAP comprise copies of individual packet that are dropped. Drop stage PCAPs do not include prior or subsequent packet for a contextual analysis. Now let's see pre-pass match option. After the packet enters the ingress port, the firewall performs several basic processing states to ensure that the packet is viable before it is received. For subsequent sessions setup and additional firewall processing, the firewall discard a packet that failed this basic test before the packet reaches the point where it matched against the capture and debug log filter. For example, if the route lookup fails, a packet never will reach even after initial receive capture filters. So guys, there are a lot of options available to do the troubleshooting. I have explained some basic things where you do packet captures, but you can run too many debugs, too many filters to look at the packet at the various stages. Basically, this domain conclude all about your packet capture, all about your troubleshooting part. So you can refer various things how you can do the troubleshooting to understand more on this. Right, now we have seen domain 4. Now let's move to the last domain, which is domain 5. Name is core concepts. So in this domain we will be revising all the concept what we have learned so far, and it's just a brief of all the concepts, and the questions are based on the what are the core concepts available on that. So let's identify the correct order of the policy evaluation based on the packet flow architecture. Let's start with the policy. So Palo Alto Network Firewall implements several types of policies: your NAT policy, QoS policy, policy-based forwarding, your normal security policy, decryption policy, tunnel inspection policies, application override policies. There are a lot of policies available. Refer these types of policy picture as I'll show you on a screen. Every policy type is a list of policies. For every connection, policies are matched from top to bottom, and the first match policy is applied, and that is the only policy of the type that is applied to that connection. The order in which the policy is applied is based on the packet processing order. You can see the figure of packet processing order. We already discussed in depth on the packet processing. You can refer the previous videos also. So evaluation orders, an example of the importance of the evaluation order can be found with the NAT and the security policies. NAT policy change TCP IP address in a packet header. Security policies are required to allow the traffic in question to transit the firewall. The processing order indicate that the address change by NAT policy are done after security policy are evaluated, resulting in a security policy being returned to the pre-NAT packet addresses. Policy match and connectivity test. In PAN-OS 9.0, you can perform policy match and connectivity test for firewall from the web interface rather than the CLI. You can easily test the running configuration of your firewall and verify traffic and connectivity to ensure policy are matching policy rules as expected to allow or deny traffic, and that the firewall can connect to the network resources and the external services such as wildfire, log collectors, or update server. Now let's understand, given an attack scenario, identify the appropriate Palo Alto network threat prevention component to prevent or mitigate the attack. Advanced persistent threat to your organization are growing in a complexity and capability. Advanced persistent threat represent the most difficult challenge to the security professionals. Next, security profile and profiles. The primary firewall tool protecting the user from threats are security profiles policies, which combines with the security implemented for a specific protections. There are many things available, and you can go through that with the security policies and profile to get further understanding on that. Now identify the method for identifying the users. So user ID and mapping users. The user ID feature of the Palo Alto Network next generation firewall enable you to create policies and perform reporting based on user and group rather than on individual IP address. User ID seamlessly integrate Palo Alto Network firewall with a range of enterprise directory and terminal services offerings, enabling you to associate applications, activity and policy rule to users and groups, not just IP address. Furthermore, with the user ID enabled, the application command center, SSE app scope reports and logs all includes username in addition to user IP addresses. For user and group based policies, the firewall required a list of all available users and their corresponding group mapping that you can select when defining your policies. The firewall collect group mapping information by connecting direct to your LDAP directory servers. Before it can enforce user and group based policy, the firewall must be able to map the IP address in the packet it receives to username. User ID provides many mechanisms to collect this user mapping information. User ID agent process run either on the firewall agentless implementation or installed as a separate process on a Windows OS machine. This user ID agent monitors various network technologies for authentication event and to gather the data, creating a master IP address to user mapping table stored in a firewall. For example, the user ID agent monitors several logs for a logging event, props client, and listen to the syslog message from authentication services. To identify mapping for IP addresses that the agent didn't map, you can configure the firewall to redirect HTTP request to a Capri portal login. You can customize the user mapping mechanism to suit your environment and even use different mechanism as a different sites. In a complex environment, multiple user ID agent can be deployed to work collaboratively as on master user ID to address mapping table. The following diagram you see on a screen is main functionality of user ID agent. PAN-OS software can use multiple information sources to map username to the IP address of the session. Now let's see identify the fundamental functions residing on the management and data planes of a Palo Alto network firewall. Management planes and data planes. Whether the physical or virtual management plane and the data plane functionality is integrated to the Palo Alto network firewalls, these functions have dedicated hardware resources, making them independent of each other. The following diagram architecture shows us the planes available, one control plane, data plane, and what are the various processings. We already discussed this part in a detail on a different video. Please go ahead and watch that video. Palo Alto Network maintains a management plane and data plane separation to protect system resources. Every Palo Alto Network firewall assigns a minimum of these functions of the management plane, such as configuration management, logging, reporting function, user ID agent process, route updates. The management network and the console connector terminate directly on this plane. The following functions are assigned to the data plane, like signature match processor, all contain ID and app ID services, security processors, session management, encryption decryption, compression decryption, policy compression and decompression, policy enforcement, and the network processor like route, ARP, MAC lookup, QoS, NAT, flow control. The data plane connect directly to the traffic interface as more computing capability is added to more powerful firewall models. The management and the data plane gain other functionality as required, sometimes implemented on dedicated cards. Server core functions gain filled programmable gate arrays for flexible high performance processing. Additionally, management plane function might include first packet processing, switch fabric management, etc. Now let's identify the dependency for implementing multi-factor authentication. Before you can use multi-factor authentication MFA for protecting sensitive service and applications, you must configure several settings in a Palo Alto network firewall. Multi-factor authentication is triggered when a user requests access to a service happening in a traffic that the firewall processes. The traffic is first evaluated by the authentication policy rules. When match is found, the authentication action of the rule is taken. The following figure shows the relationship of required to object to configure the authentication policy rule. Multi-factor authentication server's profile. It defines the access method, location, and authentication for integrated MFA vendors. The MFA vendor drop-down list shows supported vendors. A certificate profile is required to support the certificate used to validate certificate used by the MFA solution to secure its communication within the firewall. Authentication profiles specifies the authentication type and the server profile for the first captive portal-driven authentication. The factor tab incorporates the integrated multi-factor authentication window defined in the multi-factor authentication server profiles. Multi-factor can be added that require the user to be passed challenges from top-down. Authentication enforcement object specifies the specific authentication profile to use and is assigned to authentication policy rule. Captive portal authentication method also must be specified. A custom message can be included for the user that explain how to respond to the challenges. This is all about the multi-factor authentication. So in this domain we have different parts like wildfire, the core concepts like security profiles, forwarding traffic, and the basic things. We all covered these topics at our initial discussion during this course. So please watch those videos and feel free to text me, message me, or give me comment or a comment section. So guys, this is the end of the domain 5 as well. So and also end of the Palo Alto Network PCNSE certification study material and study concepts. If you like my videos, please subscribe my channel and press bell icon, so whatever the latestly uploaded video will come to you as soon as I'll upload them. Thanks for watching this video and have a wonderful day ahead. Bye bye.